Okay, welcome back to video 2. So you can see that my metallic paint has been painted on 3 times because I wanted it to look really nice. You can't see the lettering anymore on my paper mache. And I've got a great big box of oil pastels, which you will get, and you will also get given one of these amazing permanent Sharpies. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm looking at my picture that I've chosen. So you really need to choose a picture that you want from the moth pictures. So select your favorite, and remember, artist's license, you're allowed to change things. So I'm going to draw another circle around my circles like this, and I'm going to start putting in my wing shapes. So I've decided to draw my wings like this, and I'm going to start putting in the markings. Okay, so on my moth, I'm looking really carefully over here, and I've identified these areas over here on the wing. Let me just take a good look at that. So there is a line, kind of a line that goes across here. And then there's another line that goes across there like that. And then I've got my sections, which are kind of the scales of the moth's wing. So I'm just going to fill those in like that with my Sharpie. And then I'm going to go round to this side. I'm going to do the same thing. So you're looking carefully at the moth that you're busy drawing from the moth examples, and you're deciding for yourself how you're going to do this. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to take a little bit of white oil pastel, and I'm going to draw in some of my moth scales like this. There we go, and I'm just going to work very carefully around like this, and like this, and like that. And then around here, I'm going to make these circles look a little bit more realistic. So covering over the Sharpie with this. Let's do another circle inside this circle over here. I'm going to cover around this one as well, like that. All right, let's color this as well. So I'm going to do that, make these scales look realistic over here. That. Right, now I'm looking carefully at my moth, and I can see that there is a line, and then there are sort of dots over here. So I'm going to put these dots in carefully like this, that I can see going along over here like that. And on this side as well, I can see some dots. And I'm drawing those in, and then I'm going to add a line very carefully like this. Okay, so now I don't want you to copy what I'm doing, okay? This is what I'm doing, because I'm looking at the moth that I have seen that I like the most. So you're going to do your own thing. You're going to do absolutely your own thing with this. So the oil pastel is going to mix really nicely on top of this. Whoops. Okay, so I've done that section, and then I can see a nice line that I want to add in over here like this. So I'm going to add a kind of a wavy, zigzaggy line over here like this. That's it. And then there's a wavy kind of zigzaggy line underneath these dots on this side that I want to make sure that I add in. And then I can see sort of a yellowy color over here. So I'm going to add on a bit of this oil pastel like this. And you can smear it with your finger, do you see? I'm going to add my shading on here like this. Okay. That is looking really, really nice. So I've got some of that wing part done over there. Now a moth is quite a furry and fluffy thing. So I've decided that I'm going to add lots and lots of different texture by doing little lines on the body of my moth. If you hold a moth in your hand, you will see that it's actually quite furry. So I'm going to do all of this over here with my oil pastel to add this kind of furry part over here, and it even extends a little bit onto here with this moth that I'm doing. And I'm going to do that, do a little bit of that. Okay, I've decided that I'm going to use my artistic license and I'm going to add some bright yellow on these circles over here. I'm allowed to do that. So I'm going to put that round there like that. And I'm going to add some white over here like this. So I'm filling this in very carefully with my oil pastel like that. And on that side. And then the idea is that you keep working until you have completely finished. Over here I can see another line, kind of a decorative line on the wing. So I'm going to add that in as well. And then above this line, I can see there's a kind of a yellowy line that looks like this. So I'm going to scribble that in. And then there's a wavy line that looks like this. So I'm going to add that in like that. And then there's another brown line over here that I'm going to add in. So I'm looking at the moth, but I'm also just adding my own touches to decorate. And that's what I want you to do as well. Right, so we're going in very carefully like that. And those wings are starting to look really, really nice. Now, we did say that moths are not really very colorful, but I'm going to add just a splash of color over here to my moth. It's called artistic license. Just a little bit, not too much, because moths are not brightly colored, generally speaking. And a little bit of white like this. Turn that down. You'll see that the oil pastel mixes really, really nicely. So you can mix different shades together for yourself and then smear it with your finger, and it's actually going to look like a painted effect. Okay, so now we've got to do the top wing, and I'm going to take my Sharpie again, and I'm having a look at this, and I can see that there are these lines. This Sharpie is not working too well. This is my Sharpie that works good. Right, so I'm taking this line across to there, doing the same on this side because it's a symmetrical creature, right? So I'm taking my line across to there, and I can see that there are lots of lines that have divided this part of the moth. So I'm going to draw those lines in carefully like that. Right, to there. And then over here, I've got another pattern that looks something like that. I'm going to put in. And so I'm going to repeat that on this side to make it look symmetrical. And I'm going to draw these lines like this over here, and on this side I need to do the same thing, so I need to be a little careful with that. Then I'm going to do a lot of lines leading out like this from that section, like that. I'm just going to work over this. So the whole idea is that you just keep working, okay? So I'm working over this as well because I don't like the way that looks now. Working over this to make this look kind of textured. Working over this with my lines a little bit like this, a little bit more over here like that. Remember, you can smudge it with your finger if you want, like that. Okay, now I need to add a touch of white to this over here. I'm going to add a bit of white like that. There we go. And on these ones over here, remember you want to keep it symmetrical. And last but not least, I can see that there are these interesting dots all over this moth over here. So I'm going to add in the interesting dot patterns that I'm looking at all over here. And over here are interesting dot patterns. Okay, so the idea is that you work away these Sharpie lines with oil pastel afterwards. So I'm going to go over these as well with my oil pastel because it just gives a much nicer, more kind of organic feel to what we've done. Like that. Okay, so we're going to work over all of those Sharpie lines like that, wherever you've done those, and over here. And this is starting to look exactly like I would like for my moth to look. Okay, so perhaps I will take my artistic license and I will do a circle over here like this, and blue circle around the outside to finish that off very nicely like that. And then I'm going to take this, I'm going to divide this up to make those kind of scale on the wings a little bit more over here. So you can see, guys, I've added an incredible amount of detail to this, which is what I want you guys to do. Think and look at the examples that you've been given, and that is how you're going to make something that looks really, really beautiful. Right, we are done. I think I'm going to put a little bit more texture on this entire moth's body. I'm going to go all the way down like this, all the way, and I'm even going to add a little bit of yellow in places, and at the bottom I'm going to make this end part a little bit yellow, and I'm going to add some black over here like that. Right, that is not finished because I'm going to do this. I want this to be super elaborate. So I've just seen something else that I want to decorate. I'll decorate this part over here. Okay, that was a long tutorial. Well done, guys. We just need to add the antenna. So that is how I want you to do this, okay? You're going to use a lot of detail, use your imagination, think it through, and make something absolutely beautiful.